This is Ryan from RLS ASMR. So today I got some pizza. You will notice that I'm actually in a different environment. That's because I'm on vacation. This is a timeshare. I talked it in a video before. My dad has a timeshare. For Myrtle Beach, which is where I currently am. And we used to come here a lot when I was a kid. Well, a lot, but whenever we could. So I just got a basic sausage pizza. New York style, apparently. And this is an unconventional setup. Normally my setup would look a lot better. But scrambling today when I went to go get my when I was getting everything into the car, I conveniently forgot my rinky-dink tripod that I usually use. I didn't bother bringing my ring light because I figured there's going to be enough light, which I was right. But a lot of the videos I have planned for while I'm here, because I'm going to be here for a whole week, are going to be showing you around the hotel that I'm at, or the timeshare, or what have you. I also plan on doing a video at the beach. So that's going to be great. I'd also like to apologize for not getting a video up recently. Or getting a video up for a while. But I kept scrambling over what exactly I want to talk about. What movies exactly. So I want to, if you guys want, let me know your Hollywood favorite, October movies, spooky movies, Halloween type movies. I'll let you guys know the movies I've seen. I've seen Nightmare Before Christmas. I know people say that's either a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie. There's a debate about that. I probably would say a Halloween movie, even though it's based in Christmas. Because, it's a spookier movie. Well, technically, I guess you could say it's a Christmas movie. But I've seen that. I've also seen A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween. And I've seen Scary Movie 1 through 3. 1, 2, and 3. So, let me know what you want me to watch, your favorite scary movie. This is also Diet Coke, by the way. Let me know what favorite movies you want me to watch. That's a classic, or it could just be your favorite horror film. I will talk about a few films that I've watched. And then one was requested by a subscriber. So, these aren't requested by subscribers, but these are the ones I've seen, so. We'll start with A Nightmare on Elm Street. A Nightmare on Elm Street. It basically starts out the very beginning opening scene, which I found kind of funny. It shows you Freddy Krueger sharpening his knives. Like his knife, razor sharp knife hand. And it's very old. And I know I'm not going to find it that they're very scary because of how old it is. But then it cuts from that to, I believe, I could be wrong, someone could correct me. Basically, this woman, you think she gets killed. And, or the next scene is that basically there's these teenagers. It's always teenagers, right? One of them, I forget her name, thinks she's going to be murdered. And, I think her parents go out of town. So she invites her boyfriend and her friend. And that friend also has a boyfriend, and they're all at her house. If that makes sense. So it's her, the girl who thinks she's going to be murdered, her friend. And then both of those two girls' boyfriends are in one house. Because she was home alone. So what do you think two teenagers are going to do when they're home alone? Exactly. Well, there's 4 teenagers in the house, but you get my point, right? So they start doing that, and then afterward, the main girl starts having this like conniption fit because she's being chased in her dream by this main guy you saw in the beginning, Freddy Krueger. As she's having this dream, she looks like she's like I said, like a conniption fit, like she's convulsing and whatnot. Her boyfriend hops out of bed. The girl gets drawn up to the ceiling, and like this. Okay, she looks like she's being like scratched, and there's blood, and whatnot. And then she gets like telekinetically, like with the Force type shit, pulled up to the ceiling and onto the ceiling. Blood everywhere. As all of this is happening, she's screaming. Oh, and I missed a part. She told her friend about the dream, that she felt like she was going to be murdered, which is why they were over there at her house. I don't know if I explained that. Sorry if I'm re-explaining it, but the point of them being at the house was because she was scared. Also, they could also have a whole house to bang in. Both of the teenager couples. So then, it's kind of funny because you presume that they're having sex, but she's like yelling and screaming like she's being murdered. And then when the door opens, when they're like, "Oh my God, what's going on in there?" They open the door. There's blood everywhere. She's dead, and the boyfriend's gone. Because bro ran. And they never actually explain that, other than the fact that the bro was scared. I would be pretty freaked out too. And I think in a panic state, you probably would run. But all that did was make him look guilty. So he runs away. The girl who's left, the girl and her boyfriend that were in a different room in a different part of the house, all while this was happening. Her dad is a police officer. I think he's either the sheriff of the department, or he's just a main police, like a higher ranking police officer. I don't know, actually. I don't know if that's ever explained, but basically, he tracks down the guy, but the girl ends up finding him because they're trying to track him down and say he's a main subject, right? or no suspect to the, the murder case or whatever. She finds him and it starts asking him what's, like what happened. He describes the scene. Well, then her dad appears and picks him up and takes him to jail. And like, this entire time you're just thinking like, when can he explain to them? Like, this guy's, I guess his life is over, he's screwed, right? Well, after he gets locked up, the girl, who is now the main lead character, starts having these dreams of Freddy as well. There's a scene in the classroom. And by the way, when Freddy attacks, he puts you to sleep, but he makes whatever you're currently experiencing look normal. So for instance, if like you fell asleep and you woke up, you're still asleep, but it's as if you were walking like down the street or something. And so whenever you see Freddy, you know you're in a dream, basically, because he's making your actual current circumstances look real. Kind of like putting you in a genjutsu from Naruto, if that makes sense. It's all an hallucination type thing. But so with her, she's in class. She notices that guy, and then she goes to check it out. But then apparently, and then he starts chasing her. I believe they chase each other to her. She's like, she realizes it's a dream, and so she sees some hot pipes, and she takes her arm and like puts her arm on the pipe, and that wakes her up. And that's like in the middle of class. And so she realizes like, oh, what happens in a dream does carry over to real life. So there must be some sort of way to hurt this guy. Excuse me. There has to be a way to hurt him and get rid of him if what he's doing in the dream can manifest into the reality we currently live in. Well, when she finds out about this guy, I can't remember if that happens before this happens. I can't remember the exact chronology, so excuse me, but as I'm remembering details, I'm giving you the basic idea. I watched it like over a week ago. From the main guy, from the guy who's in jail, because remember that's the boyfriend of her friend. Can't remember his name either. But that particular guy, no, he's not played. Never mind. But yeah, that particular guy, she starts asking him like, dreams, because apparently he's been having dreams as well. And she confirms from him that this Freddy Krueger person has been visiting them all in their dreams. Basically. Either from her or her boyfriend. Either from him or her boyfriend. Something like that. And then, towards the end of the climax of the movie, she devises this plan to hurt Freddy Krueger, to somehow beat him. Oh, I forgot this piece of lore. Before that, the entire time, because she's like losing sleep, right? So she gets taken to a sleep clinic. Well, she fights Freddy Krueger in her dream, so she starts convulsing in the clinic. Because she wanted to if my daughter can't sleep, whatever, like what's going on with her, right? So she takes her to the sleep clinic. The sleep clinic doesn't help. Well, then you'll find out later that apparently her mom, because Freddy Krueger was apparently this child, I don't know if I can say that on YouTube, a child predator, / killer. And so the mom, with a bunch of other moms, went to go kill Freddy by like basically committing arson, which is why he's like burned and he has burned skin. And the mom, don't know why she did this, the mom has his metal claw thing that he has like to scratch, you know, and to kill or whatever. So the mom has that. And she's like, see, he's dead, he can't hurt you anymore. Great job, Mom. He's after me and my friends because it's revenge, but, you know, thank you for doing what you did. That's great. Thanks so much for that, Mom. Well, then she devises the plan to end up to try to kill Freddy. She sets some traps. She basically like Home Alone-ifies her house. Because her idea, I think, is to pull him out of the dream. Somehow, I forget. Pull him out of the dream, hurt him, and then bring him to the dad and be like, hey, this is Freddy Krueger. He's like, you know, and explain the whole situation. Well, that doesn't actually end up happening, and I'm getting fuzzy on some details. Like, I can't remember exactly how they explained. Maybe people could help out in the comments. They didn't exactly, like, explain what happened to Freddy. But then basically you think he's gone for a little bit. Or you think he's gone. Like, okay, cool. And then at the very end of the movie, when they're driving off and you think everything's good to go, right before it fades to black, you see Freddy, like, pull the main girl, or I think it's the mom. The main girl's like, Mom, you see, yeah, it is the main girl's mom. You see him pull her into the house, and then the door shuts, and then it fades, and it cuts to black. And I thought that was a really good ending, because it's like, so, and the ending scene is very, like, you know, has a lot of light in it. You don't know if it's a dreamscape or if it's reality. And then if Freddy's alive, is he alive in real life, or is he alive in the dream? So what I liked about Nightmare on Elm Street is, like, they are able to give you a very, like, open-ended, they're able to give you an open-ended ending where you can interpret it a couple different ways. And then you're like, oh, well, I guess either it's only a couple different ways. It's either did he survive or didn't he? But it makes you want to watch the second one, which for the rest of these movies, I'm not really enticed to watch the second one. Although I am going to watch them. I'm just not super enticed to, because, like, Nightmare on Elm Street for an old horror film is actually really good. I like the screen. I like the filmography, like the cinematic and all that stuff. I like the screen direction and the dialogue. It doesn't seem too crappy. It gets to the point, and then there's this element of suspense. Because if you're being attacked in your dream, how do you fix that problem? You need to sleep at some point. Like, during the movie, this girl, she has a coffee maker, or she has a pot of coffee that is like laying on her nightstand, and her mom takes it in all of like her 5 coffee mugs. Well, as soon as her mom leaves the room, the girl gets up off her bed, goes underneath her bed, and pulls out a full coffee maker with a full pot of coffee and 2 more coffee mugs. And I'm like, she's literally me. With the amount of like staying up I do, and how much coffee I go through, I'm like, hey, that's me, literally. So it's like the adding subtle things in like that. It's still, I can still find it a bit relatable. And I don't know if it's like the difference between like slashers and like, I don't know the subgroups of horror. I don't know all the definitions yet. I'm very new to horror. So if you're like, getting caught up on something I'm saying because I'm not using the right definition. I apologize. But it's because I'm not used to it. I don't know, like, I haven't figured out all the nuance between definitions and whatnot. But legitimately, I think I'd give Nightmare on Elm Street on Letterboxd. I may have given it like a 3.5 or 4. I should give it a 4 now that I'm thinking about all the different stuff I liked about it. But also, I'm gonna put my Letterboxd in the description. So if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, you'll get to see all of the different like movies I watch. And as I watch them, some movies I've already seen, so if I update a lot in a day, that's probably what it is, because I remember. But I'm trying to keep it updated so that I can have a log of like all of the different movies I've seen in the last few months, and I'll remember, oh, I watched this, and then it's a really cool site. I really enjoy it. So I'm gonna get more Diet Coke, and we're back with more Diet Coke. Alright. So I figured the next movie I'll talk about is we'll go with Friday the 13th. So Friday the 13th is, I mean, I'm sure you're aware, you know, it's Jason's movie. So what's interesting about the original Friday the 13th movie is that I think I'm gonna leave these pizzas alone because I want to have a little extra to eat in the morning if I get hungry. But alright. So what's interesting about the Friday the 13th movie is that it's basically these teenagers again. It's these teenagers who are setting up this summer camp for the summer. I don't remember the name of the summer camp, but they end up getting it set up. And as they're setting up the summer camp, you have the locals who come by, and well, their one was a cop, and they're like, "Hey, have you ever seen?" I don't remember his name, but he says something like, "Have you ever seen Weird Joe around here?" And they're like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this guy who comes by. He's very, he's kind of weird. Like you should stay away from him." And then he kind of says this thing where it's like, I think he says like, "You should stay away from this camp," or or you basically warning them you shouldn't be here. And then in one of the rooms while they're setting it up, I'm pretty sure it's that guy the cop was talking about, but then he's like he's freaking out. He was in one of the rooms, they opened it, and he just starts like blurting out. And he starts walking around, I think, and he runs off, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's weird," but they don't think anything of it. Well, for the first like 30 minutes of the film, not much happens. In the beginning, you see that there's this person who's trying to get to the camp, and it's like a pretty young girl, and then she's like, "Hey, can you guys help me to get to such and such camp?" And she has like a big backpack on, like for all of her stuff, basically everything she owns. And she's like, "Oh, can you guys, someone to help drive me over?" And this one guy was like, "Yeah, I'll help you." And then so she's basically, she gets in his car and drives. And well, then it cuts back to the original camp, and then you see the interesting part is that like a lot of the shots that are taken of the campers are from like a third party perspective. It's not like you have two subjects and then there's a camera right there to kind of like show that, oh, it's like you're a part of the conversation. I mean, a lot of shots, some of the shots later on in the movie are like that, but in the beginning there's a lot of wide angle shots, like as if you were gonna see these people. Like for instance, there's a shot of them at the lake, and it starts zoomed in, and then it slowly starts to pan out, and that's as if like as if you were going to like as if you were stalking them. It's the best way I can put it, because that's what I'm assuming that's what they were trying to come up to put across. It's like as if you were literally stalking these teenagers, because the shot was as if, I'm gonna go for another piece. The shot was as if like, it was as if you had like binoculars and you were zooming out of the binoculars. That's what the shot looked like. So then because of that, and then it's like that, and then like 35 minutes of that. Wow. Meanwhile, the girl gets dropped off, and then you can see that she's like kind of hitchhiking. Well, she was hitchhiking, and then the person who's driving is the perspective of the camera of who you're watching. So you see the girl in the passenger seat, and you can see her go like, "Hey, yeah, my turn's coming up right here," and then he drives past it, and then she's like, "Hey, that was my turn. Like, hey, like, can you drive me back there?" And then I think you can hear the car speeding up, and you're like, "What?" So she gets freaked out. She tuck and rolls out of the car like a badass. Honestly, I was impressed. She tuck and rolls out of the car, and then she starts limping, like trying to run away. You see the car stop. I can't remember if the person backed up. I think they did back up a little bit to get closer to her. And then you see you don't know who the killer is. In Nightmare on Elm Street, you see the killer in the beginning of the film, but you don't see the killer yet. That's what I think. That's what I think the uniqueness, because these all came out around the same time, like in the same general like 10-year time span. I can't remember, like 70s to 80s. So I think they were trying to be unique, because they're like, okay, well, Oh, and I forgot about the beginning scene. In the beginning scene, there were these two teenage campers who were getting it on. You're noticing a theme with these older movies. And they got murdered, but at the same time, it's from the camera. The camera is the killer's perspective, is what I'm trying to say. So you see the hand, like, killing them, but you don't know who the killer is, because it's your first-person perspective. And then, so going back to, kills the hitchhiker. You see the teenagers at the camp, they're having fun. Well, I think they start playing a game of like strip Monopoly. Meanwhile, the other two campers are getting it on in one of the adjacent cabins, I guess you would call them. And he's getting it on it, but they get it on and they get done. And this is actually a bait and switch I wasn't expecting. I thought this was a rather clever bait and switch. So, you see the girl. She says something. I think she has to go pee or brush her teeth or something like that. I can't remember. So she gets out of the bed. I think she said she has to pee. Because I remember thinking, you better. I remember thinking, oh, you better get up and go pee. No, so you don't get a UTI. I remember thinking that, so I think that's what she went to do. So she got up, went to do that. And you think that the killer is going to kill the woman, right? Because like we just saw a woman get killed. So you're thinking, okay, is that like his intended target? Like, I'm sorry, but with horror movies, it's like, well, they kill the guys, and they'll kill a guy, kill a girl, kill a guy, kill a girl, that kind of thing. Sometimes. But like with this horror movie, the girl gets up, and then you know someone's about to die. But then I think something, either a knife or something or like that, pierces through the guy, like while he's laying in the bed, pierces through his chest. So you're like, oh, he killed the guy. Because it seemed like the scene was setting up for the woman to die. Just saying. But that was a good bait and switch. I wasn't expecting it. Although I probably should have been expecting it. Never let him know your next move. So, I can't remember how all of them individually die. But they do end up getting picked off one by one by one. And here's the funniest shit that happened in this entire fucking movie. Made me lose my shit. So the remaining woman realizes that all of her friends are dead. You know, and now she's pushed over the edge. Well, pushed to the edge. If you got that reference, let me know. But all of her friends are dead. And so what she does, because she's trying to board up to make sure that the killer doesn't kill her. So the killer like doesn't get in, right? So she's boarding up the door. And you're thinking like, decent idea. But she starts boarding up the door with every fucking thing. And the issue is that the entire place has windows. Like from her perspective, there's a window here, 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 and here. And then if I'm her, there's also 2 more windows in the back room, like directly behind her. If you board up the door, you're just gonna break in the window. That's my thought process. But she was she put a dresser in front of the door, she put chairs on the door, she was throwing everything she could out the door, and I'm like, if you're this frantic about getting murdered, you're probably just gonna get murdered. I'm sorry, but not that I wish that upon you, but if you're that scared and you can't think logically to know, like, oh, maybe I should board up the windows, maybe I should break one of these chairs so that I can get the leg and I have a bat, maybe I can, or like, you know, something, get a sharp object or something. Like, if there was a kitchen right behind her, I would run and go get a knife, like anything. And so she does all that only to have to undo it because she sees like a woman pull up and get out of her car, and so she's thinking, oh, finally help, because they like tried to phone for help or whatever. Well, I guess they couldn't because the killer's smart and cut the phone line. So what they were going to do is actually they were gonna take the car, go into town, call for help. And the one pulls up, and then basically goes through this whole, it's like the last 20 minutes of the film, explains everything that's been happening. And by the way, Nightmare on Elm Street does this, but they do it better. Halloween also does this, but like in a way that like, well, they don't actually do this, actually not in Halloween, but in this movie, Friday the 13th, the entire plot of the movie is explained in 5 minutes, and it's at the last 20-minute section of the movie. I'm like, so like, you don't know what's going on. You just know they're getting murdered. And then the only time you find out the culprit is at the very end. And then the woman is basically an accomplice because the woman had a child who was named Jason, who drowned in the lake. And so now the entire camp is cursed. And she was basically like, I don't know if Jason was killing everybody, because it seemed like she was possessed by Jason. Maybe some of you can help me out with that lore in the comments. But it seemed like she was like possessed by Jason, because he was talking for her, like through her. Maybe she just is a crazy mother, loved her kids so much. And I think she does eventually die. Get like a long fighting scene. I think she does eventually die, and I can't remember exactly what happens at the very, very end. I think I have time just to explain the last one. I think you guys deserve a triple feature, considering the fact that I haven't uploaded in like 9 days. And I think this will be like the longest mukbang that I've done, so make sure you, let me know if you guys like it. And it's a pizza one. I haven't done a pizza mukbang in a long time, I haven't done Dominoes before. I usually just do my like Red Robin pizzas and whatnot. So Halloween is, so obviously it's taking place on Halloween. The movie is taking place on Halloween. What it is essentially that there's this, the beginning of the film, excuse me, at the beginning of the film, there's this guy, not this guy, but there's these two teenagers, and all of these three movies have something very uncommon, and I wonder if you've caught the theme yet. But there's two teenagers, and they go up to the room and start, doing the deed. Well, apparently her little brother didn't like that. He's a 6-year-old little brother. And he goes up there and with like a kitchen knife and kills his sister, like after they're done doing the deed, and the guy goes away. The guy leaves, and then I think I didn't catch this, but I rewinded it, and I thought, because I think the girl says like, "Oh, call me tomorrow," and he said, "Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow," and then he leaves the house. He's not calling tomorrow, but I guess he doesn't have to, because the little boy walks up to the, and then you see it from his perspective, like with the mask on. And also they have a tiny like plastic hand. I guess that's because they were trying to make it seem like it was from his perspective, so there would be a tiny hand. It wouldn't be a man's hand, you know what I mean? So it's like a tiny little plastic hand, and starts whacking at her. It's actually kind of like a funny scene. A lot of these horror films are just hilarious. So he starts whacking at her, and then I think either the parents get there, or the cops get there or something, and they're like, "Oh my god, what happened? What'd you do, Mike?" And that's Mike Myers. Well, cut to when he's being transferred. I think he spent 15 years in prison. He escaped during like a transfer from a prison to a prison or something like that, or a prison to a court date, I think. Or not a sentencing hearing, but I think like an appeal. Like if you were gonna get appealed, your sentence. He like escaped during the transfer process of that. And then he escapes all the way back to his hometown on Halloween. He robs a store. And here we go, we're back. Okay. And then he robs a store. He takes a Halloween mask, some rope, and some knives. And that cop, when he's investigating, he tells the two main characters, he's like, "It's probably some kids who would steal this on Halloween." And I'm like, "Okay, Dad, you're probably right." One of the girls is meant to be like this book smart, know-it-all, but like not in a bad way, but like she in the movie she ends up saying like, "Oh, the boys don't like me because I'm too smart." And so she's kind of like a homebody, more of like a wholesome, reads a lot, doesn't like partying too heavy or whatever, even though that she smokes weed in the film. So they plan this thing where they're gonna like, it's Halloween, so she has to watch the main, girl who has to watch the kids. She'll watch the kids and then watches the little sister of her friend so that she can go like mess around and fuck her boyfriend. Type of thing, mess around and go fuck her boyfriend or whatever. Well, I don't have to go too much into explaining everything. Because basically, like, what happens with Mike Myers, he just goes around and he starts killing people. But the funny thing about Mike Myers is that, like, he's the worst stalker on the planet. Like, bro, this will be the tree. And he peeks out of the tree, like, barely. Like, his whole body is like, it's a skinny tree. And then he's just standing there and watching. And then he'll peek. He'll peek to the side, kind of like corner peeking, like that, like in an FPS. He'll do that type of thing. But it's hilarious because it's like, bro, everyone could see, and no one has peripheral vision in this goddamn movie, I swear to God. No one has any peripheral vision, so. Oh, and by the way, no one in the movie, not one time, I dare one of you guys to find a scene. I will pay one of you guys $5 if you can find a scene where someone in the movie does this. Never in the movie. They do not check. They don't. Not even like they're looking both sides across the street. Not like that. Like, they don't ever just look to the side. They'll like turn their whole body. And then sometimes they look. But it's after something's already happened. No one like, sometimes you'll just be like, you'll walk into the kitchen, so then you just walk in like you want to take a look at everything. You don't walk into the kitchen tunnel vision. Like, everyone in this movie is freaking tunnel vision. It's hilarious. And so yeah, and he basically ends up killing everybody except for the last girl. And what's funny about this is that he keeps getting stabbed and shot, and then he ends up getting away. And like, he gets stabbed and shot a bunch of times, but it's like, dude, like, aren't you supposed to die? Like, this guy's unkillable. There's also like a super useless character in this entire film, and that's the psychiatrist that used to, I guess, psychologize or whatever, talk to, the therapist of Mike Myers. He's trying to track him down through the entire movie. He's working with the cop, the lady's dad, and the girl's dad, and he's working with him the whole time, like, hey, he's gonna come back to this house because I know, like, for 15 years I talked to the man and this is what he's gonna do. Well, he never actually ends up going back to the house, so the doctor was wrong about that. The doctor then goes, well, there is a house that, like, Mike Myers used to live in, the house that his sister got murdered in, that he murdered her sister in. The psychologist thought that or the therapist thought that Mike was gonna go back to that house. He ended up never actually going back to that house. I mean, he was there earlier in the movie, but he wasn't there when the doctor said he would be there. So I guess the point of that was that the doctors, like, missed the time, but he knew that he was gonna come back there eventually, because I guess he talked about it or planned it or whatever. But the funniest thing is, like, the doctor didn't do anything except for the very end of the movie. He shot Mike Myers, which didn't even kill him. So the entire thing about the psychologist is he's like a useless character. Even at least the police officer was trying to be like, hey, the police officer was like, hey, if he's not coming back, I gotta, like, patrol more areas. Like the police officer actually had, like, shit to do, but this psychologist didn't understand his patient, I guess, and makes sense with him being a serial killer or whatever. But yeah, useless character, doesn't do anything. But for my overall ratings of the movies, I would have to say that of those three, Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite. And then I would have to say, for sheer comedy, like for actual just sheer comedy, probably Halloween. Halloween's meant to be more of like a flirty, more interesting. Like that's what Friday the 13th was going for. But Friday the 13th gets boring after a while. It gets so like dull, and I lose interest. Halloween, it does do the same thing. They're kind of in the same boat for me, but it has a little bit more of like comedy in it. They pick up the pace at some point, and you actually care about like different aspects of things going on, tangential to just, Jason being like or not Jason, but Mike Myers like killing somebody. In the Friday the 13th movie, I don't like the exposition being at the very end. I don't like the story being explained right before the movie ends. Maybe that was a popular thing to do in the 70s and 80s or whatever it came out. I don't like that. I like my story very like either you're figuring it out linearly or if it bounces around. I like it very specific to bounce around. I was going to talk about another movie, but I'm actually running out of time and I don't think I can fully dedicate enough time to the next movie. So I'm going to review that movie at some point, probably during the week, this week while I'm still here, because there's going to be a lot of things that we're doing and I'm going to record a lot because I want to make sure that I get enough footage and just upload, and like I'll stretch out the uploads a bit, but I'll make sure you guys get some content this week. Thank you guys for being so patient with me. But yeah, Halloween isn't like it's a good movie. I'd put them in the same boat as Friday the 13th and Halloween, but I really liked. They're both about right here for me, and then like Nightmare on Elm Street is up here. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. Even though it was old, I think I probably could give it a rewatch, probably either in a few weeks or like next year. Definitely next year when this rolls around again. I'm gonna give it I'm gonna put it on my list of stuff to rewatch. Or I'll watch it throughout the years and stuff, or watch it throughout the months and stuff. But I definitely want to give it like a solid rewatch. Or I'm gonna give it like another solid watch pretty soon because I think it's great. Probably on Halloween. But yeah, hey guys, let me know what would you recommend me watch in the comments down below. Because I am looking forward to watching more. I will watch some of your recommendations. The person who recommended that I watch Strange Darling, that is going to be the next movie recommendation if you've made it this far. That is the next movie I'm probably going to be reviewing. That along with Antoine Fisher, which I really loved. I would highly recommend that movie. But I'm going to definitely be reviewing a few more movies here and there because I think you guys really enjoy that. And I've been talking about anime quite a bit. So I'm going to lay off the anime and get in a few more movie reviews. So then that way you guys can enjoy that. But like I said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys are having a great week. Or gonna have a great week, depending on when I upload this. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.